Hey, so 2020 has been a really challenging year for many people around the globe. And as we trying to get back into some sort of normalcy, um, leading with an emotional intelligence has been pretty much something that people are paying attention to now. And it's been very interesting to read some of the things that I've been reading lately. And we're going to go over that today here at 7 a.m. Stay tuned. Hello, hello, and good morning. Let me see what's going on here. There's something that's not working. Alrighty. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Okay. Well, so just for full disclosure, I sat down here with 2 seconds to go because my wife was on her way to work, and she sometimes leaves a little bit later than I would like her to, or she should be a little bit more ahead of the time, and sometimes it's gets a little challenging. So I literally sat here. It was like 2 to 3 seconds to go live, and I sit here immediately and I go into my spiel just so everyone knows that if I'm seem like a little bit out of breath, it's because I'm just a little bit anxious. That's full disclosure. I like to let everybody know what's going on in my life, just because I feel more comfortable that way. But anyway, so today we're going to be talking about, and for some reason my show is not on the Aleph Bayonne page, so I apologize to the Aleph Bayonne people. I will share the show there later and see what's going on with that. But for some reason it did not percolate, as they say, on there. So I will remove it and just keep that kosher. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. It's John Henry Soto. It is April 26, 2021, and we are here discussing emotional intelligence. What exactly is emotional intelligence? I don't know. I'm just kidding. Um, or maybe I don't know. I mean, I think we're all trying to figure that out, right? I mean, if you can't really define, say, this is emotional intelligence, because everyone's emotions are different and everyone's intelligence are different, and putting it together, I think it's has to do a lot with empathy, compassion, um, being a good listener, being a good communicator. All these things combined really have a lot to do with emotional intelligence. And as we come out of this pandemic, and we're things are sort of opening up, depending on what day of the week it is, but statistically, things are better, right? And we are actually getting to a point where people are starting to go back to work, and because of that, there seems to be a an emotional uh, connection with people coming back to work again. People seem to be a little bit more, I don't know, understanding. And when you're leading a team, when you're responsible for a team, it really does have a lot to do with compassion, and it does have to do with an emotional intelligence, and you have to lead with this. You have to lead with your heart and with empathy and with understanding, compassion. And as a leader, that is one of the most important things that you need, especially during this time, right? I mean, normally you always need that, right? But this time now, this is like just crucial to getting any business off the ground and to really getting anything successful. So, as we move on, I'm going to just read a couple of things that I read on this article called Five Ways to Lead with Emotional Intelligence, which I thought was a really well written piece. And I'm just going to pull a couple of things from here. Not everything, I can't always say that I agree with everything I read, but every once in a while, something hits me that it actually is very impactful. And I decide that I'm going to share it with my audience because I think that that's why I'm here. And hopefully, this will be of value to you and help you. If you do find this valuable, please like and subscribe and share this channel with people that you think might like to hear a short Puerto Rican talking about things in the mornings live at 7 a.m. There are people out there that might like to listen to short Puerto Ricans talking at 7 a.m. It's a very small majority, but hey, listen, I'll take that's my audience. I got to be respectful to those people. So, and thank you for that. So the first one here is being emotional intelligence means being vulnerable. Now, this is a very tricky one. I'm a Puerto Rican from the South Bronx, and being vulnerable is something that I did not grow up seeing. I did not grow up doing, um, but I did have examples of it from my grandfather, who was a very emotional guy, very quiet man, very a funny man, but very quiet and did not create a big ruckus when he was around, but he was always the one telling jokes in a room. My grandmother was very um, depending on who she was around. She was a very outgoing, loving person. She was tough. She ran the household. My grandfather never bought anything in the house. He turned over his check to her. She took care of everything. She paid the rent. She paid everything. We never were without light, without a home, without food, because she took care of all that stuff. And she told him he never knew what much money he had. He'd have to ask for money. So they were very, I don't want to say vulnerable, but they were very, I guess, understanding of each other's emotions, right? And that's where they're some type of an emotional leading with emotional intelligence, right? And so being vulnerable was something that I didn't really see too much of, unless it was like a negative thing. That's why people always look at vulnerability as a negative thing, and it's really not. By being vulnerable doesn't mean that you have to go there and go, I'm so vulnerable. No, but it has to show, like, for example, when I walked over here today for my show, I was I needed to do my show in 2 seconds. Actually, technically, I sat down and the thing said start live. Right. Unfortunately, my Olive Bell page disconnected, so I'm not on one of the pages. But and I didn't have time to fix it. You see, because I sat down late. Um, my wife went to work. She goes to work in the mornings now. Kids are sleeping. I come in here and I do my show. Now that's somewhat showing a little bit of vulnerability in my life and in my what I'm currently doing right now. And is that weakness, or is it just being truthful? I look at it as being truthful, showing that this is actually something that I'm working hard to try to expand, to try to get to more people, to try to get my message out, and hopefully to entertain people in the process, right? Because that's what I am. I'm an entertainer, and I like to entertain, right? So that's me kind of expressing that. And when employers are going back to work, or when employees are going back to work, the employers have to really accept them coming back from this global pandemic situation, which is very emotional for many of us. Some of us lost people that we know. We know people that lost people. It was a tragic year for us. And now that that we're sort of coming back to it, that emotional baggage is coming with a lot of people. A lot of employees are going back to work with it. There's still fear, there's still concern, there's still the losses, the idea of a loss. It's all still there in a very nice package, coming in with everyone back to work. And so there is that side of being a leader where you have to have a little bit of vulnerability. You have to go in there and talk to your employees and say, "Look, man, I know it's been tough. I understand. There's, this happened, that happened to me. Share your experiences. This will bring those people feeling more comfortable to come back into that environment and to feel like they have somebody that's not only leading them, but that has an emotional side that they can connect with." Okay. The next one is emotional intelligence means being self aware. Now, being self aware is being self aware, right? I'm aware that it is now 7:10. It is April 26th, 2021. I'm sitting here in front of my computer with all my lights and all my stuff that I purchased during the pandemic to do shows from home, and my mic, I got my coffee. That is awareness to a certain degree, right? But then there's also self-awareness. Am I living my potential? And I'm not. Am I doing the things that I want to be doing all the time? And I'm not, you know. And that self-awareness is what helps you become a better person and become and be able to be of value to others, right? So being self-aware means, and sometimes it may be just you walking outside, grabbing a cup of coffee. And I've done this, and I'm a corny guy. I'm a corny guy. I am a corny guy. I would grab my cup of coffee and walk out to my porch and just and try to take in that moment and try to be somewhat in present time and to understand what life's about for you at that moment, what your goals are, and that's being self-aware, and you're just understanding that, okay, I have some work to do. This is what I have to do. I got to go to my book, wherever I wrote down my notes, and I have to go start checking them off and one by one. And then take a sip of coffee. Mm. So good. Even better in one of my wife's original artwork mugs. Yourwholesomejourney.com. Get yours today. And then you walk inside and you feel much better. You feel more aware that you have to get things done and who you are, right? The next one is emotional intelligence means practicing empathy. Now, notice the article says practicing empathy, right? Because sometimes you're not aware of what you need, right? That, again, it comes with self awareness, right? You have to be self aware of yourself and self aware, but you also have to be self aware of how you're communicating and how you are dealing with people individually, right? Because everyone has their issues. Everyone has their thing that they're dealing with, their own struggles, their own concerns, their own worries of the future, right? Or they're still holding on to something from the past. So every time you approach someone, you have to approach it with a sense of empathy of where that person is coming from, being understanding, asking questions relevant to them. Don't make it about yourself. Say, how you doing? How's everything with you? Is there anything that you need? And this is empathy. And for an employer to have their employees coming back, this is crucial for them to getting them to produce at a high level where they'll be productive and where their business will be successful. So they have to go in there and hit every single person with vulnerability, being self-aware, having empathy for your employees, and sitting down with each individual employee. If it's a huge giant company and you have thousands, you might not be able to sit with everyone, but have a gathering individually with safe follow the protocols, but definitely come together and practice empathy. Practice means that you're not perfect at it, right? Because nobody is, right? There are days where I don't feel like I want to be empathetic to anything. I had Saturday. I actually literally had an off day. I took a day off, which I don't really take days off, like a day. I'll take like a morning or an afternoon, or I'll take some couple of hours for myself. But Saturday, I decided I really didn't have too much stuff pressing. Um, a few things that I had were actually postponed or canceled, and I just said to myself, you know what? I'm just going to have a day where I'm going to just hang out in the house with the family. We'll order some food and we'll really just have a day to ourselves. And I just didn't feel really, and not that I felt bad. I just was kind of like, had a long week. I was tired. And that was my day. That was what I decided to do that. So not every day you're going to feel, hey, let's do this, but if you're an employer and you have a lot of employees, you have to pull it out from somewhere to lead, and again, I'm talking about business, but it also can be a group. It can be if you're a filmmaker, if you're a musician, and if you're a family man, you have to, all these things that I'm talking about really applies to everyday life. Not every day you're going to be at that high level, But if you strive every day to try to be better, you get at a level that's always consistent and always acceptable and making people feel good. It's always become part of you, and then it just becomes part of your normal life, your normal routine. Emotional intelligence means communicating effectively. So the next one is important because if you're not communicating effectively, and what's effectively? Effectively. So effectively means that you're communicating something that's being delivered correctly or being delivered in a clear way that the other person is accepting it and actually is understanding it, because communication has to do with understanding, right? And if you don't have understanding, then you didn't communicate correctly, right? Or there's something else that could be wrong within that communication, right? So effectively means that you say it and it gets duplicated, right? Duplicated is the key thing. It's duplication on the other side. So when you're communicating effectively to your employees, you have empathy, you have self awareness, you have vulnerability. You show them that you're a real person. All these things together mixed in a big pot will make your work life experience and that environment really strong. Really important to have that. The next one is emotional intelligence means being self motivated. Now, this is a big one because a lot of people just want someone else to kind of team up with, and then that becomes their motivation for a little while because eventually that will fade away because they don't have self motivation. So they're going to only team up with somebody just so long as they're motivated and that person is motivating them. If that other person has other things to do or is busy doing the work that needs to be done for whatever it is they're doing, that person's motivation will go down and it will go down and it will go down. Then they won't do anything and then the business will collapse, right? I've been there many, many times where that happens, right? And I have had more failed businesses and business ideas than I can imagine. And it usually, the things that I've been most successful have been the things that I've been self motivated to do. And I've gotten up all the films that I've written and directed and all the work that I've done, music has been self-motivated. I got myself up, I either grab my guitar or I grab my pen and paper to write or my computer to write a story. I contact people to cast them in a film. I say, would you want to do this? It's very little or no money, actually, just food. And I get them together. But it's that self motivating factor that's going to be that's going to really show the group and the employees or the people you're working with, your team. It's going to show them, and I keep saying employees, employer. I should just say team, right? Because it's your team and you want to create a team environment, right? The rational, logical words are employee, employer, right? Somebody that's a company, somebody pays somebody to do a job, right? But you're creating a team environment and you want everyone to be successful in this team. So being self-motivated is one of the most important factors for an employer because he's or she's the one that has to get up there and get into that office every single day and lead by example, right? You hear that all the time, right? You got to lead by example, right? First one in, last one out, right? I'm not saying that to that degree, but if you are not wearing the hat of the ideal employee as an employer, then your employees are going to just do what they see. They're going to say, well, he came in late. He's not organized. He's always late for meetings. So the team's gonna do the same thing. The team's gonna be very lax and not really be self motivated, right? Now, how do you teach self motivation? Can you teach self motivation? I don't even know. I think what the only way somebody can be self motivated is if they're tremendously passionate about doing something, right? And it could be motivation being, I need to make money because I got to feed my family. That could be a self motivating thing, right? I got to get up and I got to do this, right? But at the end of the day, when you're lying in your bed, not able to move anymore, unfortunately, because of age, hopefully a long, long life in your 90s, and it's time to call it a day. Did you actually live to your potential? Were you self-motivated enough to go after the things that you wanted to go after, not reaching them, right? Because not everyone reaches them, right? But you can always say, I did the best I could to try to get there. I did everything I could. I pushed, I tried every avenue. I failed, and I came back again. I failed and I came back again. I succeeded and I came. If you do that, there's a 100% chance that you will be successful at the end of the day when it's all said and done, right? And that is really a life well lived. Did you impact others, right? I love the saying, and I talk about this saying all the time of um, um, Maya Angelou, right? And she has that wonderful saying that and I'm paraphrasing, but she says, people will not remember what you said or what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. Did you use your life to make others feel good? Did you use your life to help others, to show them vulnerability, to show them to be self aware, right? To have empathy, to have effective communication, and to be self motivated, to create things, to inspire others? Did you lead that life? That's really the questions that we have to ask ourselves when we're approaching the end of the road, right? And I'm talking about that, and not to be depressing, but it's gonna come for everyone, right? It's death and taxes, right? The two things that are always constant, right? um and we have to be able to apply these things in order to not only to reach what we want to reach, right? But in order to help others do that. Sometimes people will tell me, wow, I had somebody not long ago message me privately, somebody who I don't didn't even really know that follows me or knows anything that's going on with my life. But they reached out to me and they had a really sweet thing saying that, I saw your show on a I don't want to say the specific thing, but I saw your show on this thing that you were talking about, and it really inspired me to do this. And they told me what they did, and I was so inspired by that. I was like, wow. And I just had no idea. I thanked them and I said, thank you so much for listening. I'm so honored that you take the time to listen to me, and that's the result. Thank you so much for telling me, and I love to hear that. It makes me feel so good. It's just a really great feeling. So that's my spiel for the day, folks. Just to summarize again, emotional intelligence means being vulnerable. It means being self-aware. It means practicing empathy, communicating effectively, and being self-motivated. And these things, if you're a leader and you're leading with these things, you're in good shape. You're in good shape. If you go in and you're blaming people for things, you're in bad shape. You're and these are proven methods. I know that because I've worked for bosses that have had none of these things, and unfortunately for them, right? And I've left those jobs. Very easy to leave a job where people are not treating you well, right? It's pretty easy. And someday I'll write a book and I'll have all these stories in them because some of them are hilarious, and they're pretty interesting. Maybe I'll do a show on a couple of these stories having to do with the work environment and what I've experienced in the last 30-year plus of my work experience. So there you have it, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate all of you. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and share it to my YouTube channel. I'm also on Facebook and on Twitch. I'll be on Twitch a lot more in the future. And I'm going to be actually expanding the show to some other platforms on Facebook as well, starting next week. And that should be a lot of fun. Hopefully, you have more audience and more people to interact with. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. Have a wonderful week ahead. I will see you all tomorrow morning. Remember to make today great, do the things that you love, and take care of yourselves. And as always, peace.